Okay, so this is the next video in your your process to complete the practice interview. And again, you pause this video whenever you need to so that you can keep up. So I'm looking at the steps that you need to do, and your steps 1 through 5 should be done now. Um, Step 5 ended that when you in rush, when you are done, the only thing that's left is the answers and a yellow background between each answer. So here's what it should look like. There are 9 video clips. Each video clip is an answer to the question, and between each one, there is a yellow background. And it doesn't matter how long the yellow background is, okay? If I play this, all you will hear is answers.
Mr. Anderson.
There's the first answer.
AP American History. I have 2 classes.
Okay. And so that's what you actually have when you finish step 5. Okay, so what we're going to start with is step 6. On the question and answer document, arrange the video clips in an order so that they tell a story about this person. If you want to color code things, you can. For this particular project, we do not need to do that. We have everything in the order that we want them. So your step 6, you can write in as done. All right. Step 7, 8, and 9, this is the big part of the project. This is where you have to do writing, okay? You have to write what's called the script, the things that the narrator is going to say. And then along with that, you write an introduction and a conclusion. So we need to spend the majority of our time on our question and answer document, okay? All right, so the first thing that we want to do is we want to write the introduction. And I know that's not necessarily the next step, that's number 8, but we can do 7, 8, and 9 together, and we can do them in any order that we want. So what I want you to do is put your cursor right up here behind what is your name and press enter, okay? This is where we're going to write the introduction to our project. And what we want to do is just kind of introduce Mr. Anderson as to who he is. And we're going to take some of his answers that we have here, and we're actually going to use them to help us write this introduction. And you might have to pause this video and so on to get the typing done that you need. But get up your question and answer document. So again, if I go too fast for you, just pause the video, catch up, and then play it again. So here's what we're going to write for the introduction in number 1. Mr. Anderson is a history teacher at Brandon Valley High School, period. He has been teaching for over 25 years, period. He has taught at Jasper, Minnesota, O'Gorman, Guam, and Brandon Valley. Okay, so that is what we are going to dub as our introduction. So what you want to do to keep your script going the way that you need to, you take the question that you see there and you do a strikeout through it. Okay, now format, text, and there it is, strike through. Okay, that means that the fact that you did a strike throughout it means that it is not in rush, and it isn't in rush. We took it out. We put a piece of yellow in its place. Okay, this is what you will actually say. Okay, this is you, the narrator. Okay, now when you write this script, you as the narrator have to say things, and if you use his answers in your narration, then you have to eliminate his answer from your script. So we used his answer, Mr. Anderson, right here. So that's going to be something that we are going to strike through. Okay. We also have used Mr. Anderson is a history teacher at Brandon Valley High School. He's been teaching for over 25 years. Now, how did we know how long he was teaching? He told us that. So again, because we're using one of his answers in our narration, we don't want to repeat that. So we're going to take that and we're going to highlight that, and we're also going to apply a strike through to it. Okay? Because we no longer are going to use his answer, then the question can also be highlighted as a strike through. Okay? So anytime you start using the information, that's fine. You can do that. We have one more to go. How do we know he taught at Jasper, O'Gorman, Guam, and Brandon Valley? I believe down here he taught it. He told us that. We asked him the question, how long have you taught? Now, we used his pretty much his entire answer. We didn't put down the part about teaching the last 3 years, and then a total of 10, and then came to Brandon Valley. We're not going to use that. That's kind of not important information. And that's something that you have to decide when you write your project. So we're going to take all of his answer there and we're going to apply a strike through to it because we don't need it anymore. We used it in our introduction. And because we don't have any answer left, we now can get rid of the question as well as a strike through. Okay? So we have that part taken care of. So let's go back up to the top. And we've now got an introduction to our project. Okay? Again, this is the narrator part. This is what you will record in QuickTime. So let's take a look at the next question we asked Mr. Anderson. We asked, what subjects do you teach in school? So what we have to decide is this something important that we need to have in our story about him? And it is something important. Now, what we have to do is we have to write something over here that you as the narrator will record that leads us into the answer that he gave us. So over here under question number 2, write this down. Mr. Anderson teaches a variety of history classes throughout his busy day at school. Okay? You're going to take the question itself and you're going to strike it through because we get rid of all the questions. Okay? They're already out of Rush. They're now there just to help us. Okay? So you, the narrator, will say, Mr. Anderson teaches a variety of history classes throughout his busy day at school, and then he's going to tell us what he teaches. Okay? We don't want to say Mr. Anderson teaches AP History, Hollywood versus History, tragedies, and the senior internship students. We can't say that because that's what he's going to say. So you have to write something that will have your audience be able to know why he is saying this, because in Rush, this is all that's left. And so you have to write something as the narrator so that your audience knows why he's saying that. Okay? So question 1, 2, and 3 are all done. Question number 4, we asked him, what is your favorite subject to teach and why? And he gives us this answer, I like history, American history, and why I like the other subjects. And you can go on and on and on, and you can read it. So first of all, we have to decide, is this important for us to keep? And the answer is yes. Okay? We're going to do something a little bit different with it. Up here in question 2 that we wanted to keep, we kept his entire answer. For question number 4, we're actually not going to keep his entire answer. Okay? So you kind of have to decide, like, can I use part of it to help write the narration, or is some of it just not important? So do this with me. You're going to take this, I like history, American history, and why, like up to here. Okay? Highlight that part and do a strike through on it. Okay? It'll all make sense here in just a minute. Okay? Then we're going to keep the next part, like the other subjects. American history continues to expand while the other subjects stay stagnant, as I call it. And then highlight, we expand, we find artifacts that could change whether something is true or not. So this section right here, and go ahead and add a strike through to that section. Okay, so what we're going to do for question number 4, we actually are going to use this first part that we did a strike through on to write what we want. And then this part kind of is a little bit of a repeat of what he says here. And so we're just going to strike it through. So come over here under question number 4 And again, pause the video as you need to keep caught up. You're going to write Mr. Anderson's favorite class to teach is American history. Now, how do we know that? He says it right here. What's your favorite subject to teach? He says American history. Now, we're going to take the question and we're going to strike it through because we no longer need it. We don't want to delete it. If you push the delete key, then we can't go back and try to figure out, what was the question, okay? And so if you're going to repeat part of his answer as part of your narration, then you have to get rid of his answer. So now it goes, Mr. Anderson's favorite class to teach is American history. You, the narrator, record that. And then he says, like the other subjects, American history continues to expand, while the other subjects stay stagnant, as I call it. And then this whole part right here, we actually are just going to get rid of. Okay? So question number 4 is done. So then moving on to question number 5, we asked him, do you enjoy teaching and why? He says, I do. It's different every day. It's never the same. Okay? And so what we want to do is we have what we call here a little bit of a problem. He gave us a really, really short answer. And so what we're going to do is add our narrator part, okay? And it's going to go like this. Mr. Anderson really enjoys teaching because it's different every day. It's never the same, okay? And so what we did is we repeated his entire answer, okay? If you're going to repeat his entire answer, then you have to take his entire answer and eliminate it, okay? You got to strike it through because you don't want to say what he says. And again, this is so short, his answer, that it would be really hard to write something. And so then you're going to also eliminate the question, leaving you with, for question number 5, the narrator is basically going to say this, and then we eliminate the question. Okay? So let's take a look at question number 6. What other extracurricular activities are you involved in? Okay? And you look at his answer, and it says, I'm just down to coaching football. I used to coach 3 sports, just down to 1 now. Okay? And so what you're going to do with that one is you have to write a narrator portion for this. Okay? So you're going to write the following. When, helps if you spell right. When Mr. Anderson is done with his classroom duties for the day, he then moves on to his coaching duties. Okay? And so what you're going to do is take this question out that you have here. Okay? Just strike that through. Okay? And after you say this, he's going to say, I'm down to coaching football. I used to coach 3 sports, just down to 1 now. I coached girls basketball and boys basketball, and I have coached track. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to let him tell us 2 things about coaching in a row, which then means you can take question number 7 and you can strike it through, and you're not even going to, it's going to be you say this, he says this, and then he says this. So again, I'm just trying to show you a variety of things that might pop up in your interview and how you can write your script. Okay? All right, looks like we just have a couple things left to go. So the next question that we asked him is, what has been the greatest influence in your life? Okay? And he says the greatest influence would be some of the teachers I had. So we have to decide, are we keeping this? And the answer is, of course, we're keeping it because it's a good part of our video to understand who Mr. Anderson is. Okay? So this is what you're going to write in. Growing up, no one truly knows what they want to be. Having influential adults and other, let me turn my page here, and other people in your life can help you with that decision. Okay. So we asked about who's the greatest influence. So we got to get rid of the question. Okay. They always come out. And remember, they're already out of rush. Now, we want to keep this. So if we say this, growing up, no one truly knows what they want to be, and having influential adults and other people in life can help you with that decision. And he can say, aha, I made my decision. People that influenced me were my teachers. They kind of helped me go into that field. Okay? So that's how you're going to handle question number 8. Question number 9, we've already decided, is done. Okay? We've eliminated everything, so there's nothing to do. Okay? So now that leads you with your conclusion. Okay? So a conclusion is not quite like the conclusion you think of when you're writing like a paper. This is, we don't want to repeat any of our information. We just want to kind of wrap it up so that our audience that's watching our video knows that we are done. So let's put this down for our conclusion. Mr. Anderson has had many experiences that have led him to become the teacher that he is today. I hope that you have enjoyed getting to know Mr. Anderson. And that's it. And that is how you write your script. So if you go back to your steps that you have here, we wrote the script. We wrote all those responses to his questions, like what are we going to say, the narrator portion. We wrote an introduction and we wrote a conclusion. Okay. Now, you can now mark step number 7 and 8 and 9 done. Okay. Now, when you do your own project, you actually have to click the submit button and wait for me to approve your script. Okay. All right. And so with that, you now have a completed script, which is a big step in the process to doing the project. Okay. And you hit the submit button at that point. But for the practice interview, we are done with step 6. What did I say? 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. You will have to watch the next video to learn how to do the next steps.